Hey, so I'm having a little bit of cramping. I think I've been having some since this morning, but they've been super irregular. So I'm thinking either it's false labor or it's just early labor. So I am cleaning the house because I feel like it might be labor, just not like, it won't happen super fast. So it'll either probably happen tonight or I'm thinking sometime tomorrow. But I'm excited right now. It's 3:18 on Sunday, so only time will tell, but we'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted. So we're heading to the hospital because my contractions are about 5 minutes apart and I'm not really in that much pain, clearly, or I would not be writing you guys, or recording this. But Joe doesn't want to have the baby in the car because last time we almost didn't make it. So we'll see if they turn us away. So we are back at home and I'm 2.5 centimeters dilated and 50% effaced, and we didn't want to wait because it's like midnight. So we're gonna try to go to bed and hopefully we make it back if anything progresses, but watch this last like all week. That'd be so annoying, but I'll keep you posted. So this time we are headed to the hospital, and I actually think that it's the right choice. I think today's the day. I had contractions yesterday and then I went to bed because I didn't want to have another episode where we go to the hospital and then have to come back home. So I just tried to go to sleep and I prayed that I'd be able to wake up in time if that were the case. I woke up around like 6:30. Well, Blakely woke me up and the contractions were still there and getting stronger, and so we called the hospital and they want me to come in. So we are going to drop Blakely off at a friend's house and her grandpa and Gigi are going to watch her today until baby girl comes. So hopefully you won't hear from me until there's a baby in my arms.
Don't be scared, I'm right here. I'll whisper softly in your ear that you'll be just fine. Winds will come and they will blow. They'll try to shake you, but I know that you'll be just fine. Don't cry, precious love of mine. Don't cry, I'm right by your side, and I'll be right here. Whenever you need me, let your faith defeat your fear. Whenever you feel alone, just know that I'm right here. Hold my hand, I'll keep you close. I'll keep you safe and watch you grow, and you'll be just fine. You are strong and you are kind. You're perfect, I'll always remind you. You'll be just fine. Don't cry, precious love of mine. Don't cry, I'm right by your side, and I'll be right here. Whenever you need me, let your faith defeat your fear. Whenever you feel alone, just know that I'm right here. Ooh. I know these storms of life we face are hard at night, but when daylight breaks, you'll be just satisfied. And I'll be right here whenever you need me. Let your faith defeat your fear. Whenever you feel alone, just know that I'm right here. Right here.
Hey guys, Megan and Joe here with little baby Arlowe. So Megan and I just wanted to get some of our thoughts out about little Arlowe's delivery and kind of just how the whole process went, so we can remember it in the future.
And to show Arlo when she's older.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So I guess we can start from the beginning. So I guess I just anticipated this labor process to be really similar to Blakely's, which was a breeze. But hers was a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to try to stay positive with the whole thing, because it was a miraculous thing that happened, and it was amazing. But it definitely had its ups and downs. So
For starters, she faked us out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So she came to the world Thursday, June 28th, but on Tuesday, which
Sunday was the first one, because
Sunday?
Sunday we were thinking this would be so crazy if she came on this day, because Blakely came a week and 2 days early, and Sunday was a week and 2 days early for Arlo. So I was like, that would be so crazy if they came on the exact day early, if that makes sense. So anyways, that morning I remember telling Joe, I was like, I just felt funny, like my stomach feels kind of funny. I don't really know like what's going on, but it was like a little bit of cramping, but nothing alarming at all. And that kind of lasted for a while. And then Tuesday
she started having what seemed like regular contractions, like with Blakely. She was having them all day, and with Blakely we like got to the hospital, and then she just popped out like 5 minutes later. We almost didn't make it. Okay, well, after you sat on the bed, you know, we had to like check in. But so basically, every time we went to a doctor's appointment, they had like in their record that we almost missed the hospital, and so literally every OB we talked to, because we're in like a group and we see multiple, everyone would say, "Don't wait this time, just go to the hospital." And so she wasn't having like extremely painful contractions, but she was having contractions every 5 minutes. They were lasting a minute. So we're like, all right,
we waited we waited. We were all watching a movie, and he goes, okay, if they stay like this until the end of the movie, we'll go to the hospital. And I was like, I just feel funny because they're not that painful, but we really didn't want to risk it being further along than I was thinking it was. So we just went anyways. And then we got to the hospital, and then as soon as they started monitoring, my contractions slowed down. So we were like, this is embarrassing. And so they basically said, and this was at like midnight, and so they basically said, all right, well, you can walk around for an hour and see if the contractions start back up, and then we can kind of go from there. And me and Joe looked at each other, and we were both so tired. We were like, can we just go home? But I was also nervous to go home, because then, like, what if I went to sleep and then we were racing back? So I kind of had a little bit of anxiety about that, but I just decided, you know, let's just go home because they're not that painful. And anyway, that was the right choice, because that was Tuesday, and she was born Thursday, so that was the right choice to make.
Well, it's like Wednesday, midnight.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The worst case scenario, you know, Blakely was easy, Arlo was not as easy. But I figured, you know, I'll just deliver it home, whatever. I'd rather sleep at this point.
Yeah, so I told him, I was like, so what would you do? Like, how would you tie off the umbilical cord? I was like quizzing him to see like if that happened. He's like, I don't know, I'll get a shoelace. But yeah, so then we just waited. I woke up the next morning and they were fine. And then that night, I guess, it was Wednesday night, because you said it was, yeah. So Wednesday night, Joe went to bed early, and I remember staying up and kind of thinking, these contractions are a little bit more intense than the ones Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, midnight. But I didn't want to say anything because they weren't that painful again. So I decided that I was like, I'm just going to go to sleep. But what was interesting, when I stood up to go to bed, I had one contraction, and I seriously felt so much pressure, like I thought she was going to like pop out. But I was like, no, I'm just going to go to bed. I prayed. I said, if we need to go to the hospital, just let me wake up in time to get to the hospital. Because I was afraid that I would wake up when which is dumb because the contraction pains are so painful. You're not going to be able to sleep through those. So, silly me. But anyways, I decided to go to sleep. I woke up the next morning. They became even more painful. And I woke Joe up and I said, I think today's the day. Whereas before, when it was Tuesday, and he was like, when you go to the hospital, I kept thinking, I was like, this is so dumb. Like, my mind just wasn't wrapped around the idea of having a baby yet. I just don't think my body was actually there, and so then my mind wasn't. But Wednesday or Thursday morning, I was like, they weren't that painful, but like something clicked, and I said, I think today's the day. And so I was like, we need to get to the hospital just because they were doing the 5 minutes apart, a minute long type of thing, and they were more painful. So we decided to figure out what to do with Blakely. We had his dad come to the hospital to pick her up while we were getting checked in and stuff. And so
Blakely up.
What is Arlowe?
You said pick her up.
Oh, pick Blakely up. Yeah, pick Blakely up. We're still getting the name thing down because we keep messing it up.
Keep calling her.
Anyways, we get to the hospital and they started tracking me, and I was having contractions, but they weren't as painful, so they had us in, was it called triage for a little bit? So we were walking around, and then they were cleaning a room for us, and then so at this point I was like taking videos and pictures, and I was posting it, keeping everyone in the know, because last time with Blakely it happened so fast that everyone was like, wait, what happened? Like, they didn't even know I was in labor. So this time I was keeping everyone in the know. And we were walking around, and what made you say that one thing though?
What one thing?
The thing I got really mad about. Like, what was going on that you were like?
Oh yeah, so I mean, so we got there like what, 9 a.m. and she came out at almost 8 p.m. 7:49. And with Blakely, we got to the hospital, and then literally like 20 minutes later she came out.
Yeah.
So I angered her quite profusely by saying,
we could have just been at home. We could just be doing this at home. And I was like in enough pain that like, and I was super emotional. I was like listening to my like meditation. I was listening to like motivational speakers, and I was like getting in the zone. And then he's like, why are we even here? Like, we could be at home. And I was like, I just like walked out. I was like, I'm going for a walk. Like, I just started crying. I was like so mad because you're just emotional at that point. Like, you just, you don't mess with someone in labor. And then he came up behind me, and like, I knew he messed up because I didn't say anything. I just walked out, and then he started like, during a contraction, he'd like massage my back, like trying to be all cute, and I was like,
hey, I was doing good before that too.
He was doing good, and then he just made that comment, and I was like, no, he didn't. So then it was fine from there, but we just kept walking around. Then they got us into a room, and then it's so funny because it's like it was such a long process.
Yeah, we were in the room for a long
Yeah, we
time.
just kept walking. Everyone kept making comments when we were walking. They're like, getting your exercise in today. I'm like, okay, you're annoying. Yeah, trying to get this thing moving.
Yeah. So when we got there, how many?
I was like doing squats. Like, I was like trying to like get this baby.
How dilated were you when we got? Because we were with Blakely, her water broke at home, so we got there.
Yeah, I was at 10 when they checked.
And
with Arlowe, when they checked, I was at a 5. When I was in triage, I was at a 5, but 90% effaced. And so I was like, okay, well, this could still potentially move pretty fast. Like, you know, I was thinking it could still kind of get there. So I was like doing like body squats, like trying to get in like good positioning to like get her help moving down. Let's walk. Let's like get it going. And then
like 3 or 4 hours later. This is where my comment, comes in. 3 to 4 hours later, so it came in at 5 centimeters.
No, it came in like an hour later, your comment. I'm talking about the doctor. I'm about to get to the doctor.
I'm saying this is where my comment comes in, the fact that we were there forever.
We came early, like they said.
And so 5 centimeters, hours later, sitting in this room, friggin' TV stinks, it's all fuzzy.
Joe went to go get food because he can eat. I couldn't. That's another good thing about laboring at home. You can eat and drink as much as you want. So, but anyways, Joe wasn't in the room. Keep that in mind. I'm in this room, and the doctor comes in, who initially I really liked. But then she goes, so I hear you're not like huffing and puffing yet. So I am assuming you haven't progressed like at all. Let me check. So I was like, okay. I was like, let her check me, and I think I was at a 6 centimeters. I had only progressed a centimeter. And
in hours.
In like 3 hours or something, which was so discouraging already for me But I wanted to do this natural. I didn't want any interventions. Like, I just wanted to be kind of left alone like I was with my first. And she basically said, all right, so at this point you have 3 options. You can have your water broken, like I can break your water to get things moving. I can, what was the other one?
Induce Pitocin.
Oh, I could give you Pitocin, which I didn't want to do. Oh, I'll get to that. So that was the other one. And then the third one was, or I could just send you home. And I looked at her and I go, well, I don't feel comfortable going home. And she was like, oh yeah, I don't feel comfortable with that either. I was like, okay. So then I was like, okay, so those are the 2 options. I go, okay, well, why? Like, why is there a need to be anything done? Like, is the baby in distress? Like, what's going on? Like, why would you need to do something? And she goes, no, the baby looks fine right now, but I mean, it could potentially mean that she's too large to come out. There could be an infection, or, and this is what really made me mad. She said, and honestly, it really just isn't financially beneficial for the hospital to keep people here for longer than they need to be or something. And that just like fuel, like if you could see, you know those little cartoons that had like the ears that like have the smoke come out? Oh, that was me. And Joe wasn't in the room, so I couldn't like kind of, you know, look at him and like let him know. But I was like, okay, well, let me just think about it. So then I called Joe. I was like, you need to get up here. So he came up here and I told him, and then I just started like bawling.
She was mad, sad.
I was,
all of
there's such anger tears. And I'm like getting emotional just thinking about it, because it was just like, I didn't want anything to be done. And the fact that she basically said she just wanted it to hurry up because she was impatient and the hospital didn't want to have to pay for my room, like my stay, was so annoying. And then it made me feel like my body wasn't doing what it was meant to do. And it wasn't going at like the pace that was like expected, or like something must be wrong. And then I didn't want to have a C-section. So in my mind, I've been doing all this research before. I wanted a natural birth. So I didn't want Pitocin, only because Pitocin, I guess, makes the pain more intense faster, because it just like your body isn't doing it, so they're forcing it to do it. So I was like, well, I don't want it to do that. And then the second one was, though, being the water broken, and I had heard that once your water breaks, you have like 24 hours to have the baby, or you have to have a C-section. And my body was already struggling to dilate, so I was under the impression that what if she breaks my water and I'm still struggling, and then I end up having a C-section? So I didn't want either of those.
Struggling. I mean, her body wasn't struggling.
Yeah, it wasn't, but that's what they made me feel like, that it was just like inadequate, and that's not what you need in your head. You need to have, you don't need fear in your mind when you're in labor. You need to have confidence, you need to have trust, you need to be able to have like faith, you need to have all these things. And that was like so hard to feel when someone comes in telling me what she said. So anyways, I tell Joe, and he was like, I don't really know how you responded. You just kind of were like, okay. He was just okay with whatever I wanted to do, even though he did want to be at home.
We had this was after that, so I was committed to the hospital at this point. I was committed to the fact we were staying. We actually had an awesome nurse.
Oh, and, loved her.
And I wanted to make sure that Meg, you know, followed her birth plan. She wanted to do everything the way she wanted to do it. I didn't want her to feel forced. I didn't want her body to feel inadequate. So I said, Meg, you know what, we're doing this your way. We're not going to do anything. And
we'll keep walking.
Yeah,
like,
the nurse agreed with me. And
she was so sweet. She was like a little Indian lady, and like super more like holistic way of thinking. She had worked in other countries that were more holistic and natural, I guess. And she's like, sweetheart, you don't let that doctor pressure you into anything that you don't want to do. You stick to what you believe is right. And like, she was so sweet. Like, she made Joe, like, I was like crying on this yoga ball, and I'm like hysterical. And I was not emotional at all with Blakely, like, because it was just so fast, I guess. But with her, like, I was emotional the whole time. Cried the whole time.
All 12 hours.
Yes. And so then, no, seriously, I really did. Or I was on the verge of crying the whole time if I wasn't actually crying. But I was crying, and then the nurse looks at Joe, because Joe's sitting on the couch, and she was like, get over here and hug her. Joe was like, okay, and then all of a sudden Joe's like behind me, like, hugging me.
It's the most awkward hug of my life. She's like on a yoga ball. I'm like, how do I do this?
Oh my gosh, that was so
Yeah,
funny.
but me and the nurse came up with a solid plan. I was like, look, you know, there's a lot of people in the hospital. There's one doctor to like deliver all the babies.
Yeah, it was a busy
She had
night.
already delivered like 5 babies that day. So I was like, look, just don't even call it. Just
keep her out of the room.
Yeah, she'll forget about it. She's like, she has other things to do. Just don't even tell her we're here. Like, we're going to do this our way, just don't even have her come in. So the nurse was like,
keep her out.
Good idea, I won't call her. Yeah. And so she didn't call her. And, you know, a couple hours passed. And
well, the plan was, the doctor had said, I'll come back at 5. This was at like 3. And she said, I'll come back at 5 to check you and see where we're at or something. And because I said I wanted to talk to you about what decision to make. So she came back at like 5:30 or something, right? And then I couldn't even look at her. Like, she walks through the door, I could like see her feet under the little curtain, and I knew that they were her clogs. And I just looked like straight. Did you see what I couldn't look at her. I was so mad. And so she was like, so what did we decide? And I literally just sit there and I go, so we're just gonna wait. And she goes, okay. We're just gonna not listen to take any of your advice, because according to Joe, the we might need to send you home was just an empty threat. So clearly it was, because she was not gonna make me go home since I didn't want to do anything. So she was like, okay. And I didn't look at her. I just like looked straight. And then she said, okay. And then as soon as she walked out, the nurse, a sweet Indian nurse, came back behind me and she just patted me on the back. She goes, what did she say? She said,
good job.
She's like, atta girl. Or like, good job. You know, like, you stuck up for what you wanted. That was so funny. I was so
yeah. So then after that,
then they started getting freaking painful.
Real painful.
Real painful. Like, this should be the end of it. Like, this was like 45, like, it was getting so painful.
She wanted to back out.
Yeah, because they were so painful. No, I wasn't backing out because they were painful. So they were painful, and then the doctor came back in to check me again. And I'd only dilated another centimeter. So at this point, I was 7 centimeters, and they were getting really, really painful.
We came in at like 8 a.m.
And this was at like, this was maybe at 6 or something, or
what? Yeah.
Maybe 5. I don't know. Like, it just still was early in the evening. Maybe it was more like 5.
It was 6.
6, okay. And I was only at a 7. And so literally she checked me. She said, all right, well, you're at a 7. And I go, great, I'm at a 7. And I don't know if anyone knew if that was like a positive, like, oh, she's happy she's at a 7, or like sarcastic. But I was so sarcastic. I was like, really, I feel like I should be at a 9 right now. Like, I was so discouraged. And so then the doctor was like, okay, well, we need to make a decision of what you're going to do, because this is moving on real slow. And at this point, I wanted the pain just to stop. I just wanted it to stop. And so I go to the bathroom, just have a meltdown. Just a freaking meltdown. And Joe's in the bathroom with me, just like, we need to make a decision. And when you're in that much pain and people are saying, we need to make a decision, you can't, like, it's so hard to make a logical, correct decision when you're like unable to think of anything else. Like, it's just so, it was so hard, and it was like, yeah. So he's like,
so I was forcing her to make a decision that she didn't want to make, and she's in so much pain, so she's like, just give me the epidural. I want it.
Yeah, I was like, he's like, well, he's like, what's your thought? Like, what are you thinking you want to do? He's like, do you want the Pitocin? Do you want to have your water broken? And I go, honestly, I just freaking want an epidural.
Like, I just want the baby
and
out.
I was not expecting that at all. I was like, I want the epidural, I want the Pitocin, and I want her to wake my brother. I was like, I just want everything. I want her to come out right now. Like, I don't want to feel any more pain, and I want all the drugs, and I want all the interventions. I was like, do it all.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting over here.
He's like,
she made me promise her. She was like, you have to make sure that I and the doctor stick to my birth plan. She's like, don't let them do anything I don't want to do. Make sure they do everything that I'm asking. And, you know, so here she is. She wants to do it all natural again. She doesn't want an epidural. And then she's sitting there telling me, give me the epidural. And give me the Pitocin.
And break my water.
And I'm sitting here like, oh,
do it all.
How am I going to do this? So I'm like, well, Megan, you know, if they give you an epidural, they're going to have to bulge you with fluids.
No, I didn't know that. I knew that after I was like talking to the other nurse that came in.
So I was like, well, you know, by the time they come, it'll be like 30 minutes. And then, you know, that's just 30 minutes that, you know, you'll have contractions, you know, and that's a waste. And then, so why don't we just like break your water, because I bet you if you break your water, the baby will pop out in like 30 minutes.
And I was
like,
no.
You know, dilate fully.
I'm going to have a C-section if you break my water. I had my mind made up on that.
Yeah, so we ruled Pitocin out, but we were trying to decide between epidural and break her water. And I was trying to nudge her towards breaking the water. I was like, Megan, if you get epidural, what are you going to feel like? Like, I know you're paid now, but what are you going to feel like in a month? Like, are you going to be pleased with your decision? She's like, I don't care.
I was like, honestly, this hurts.
So
and I'm like crying.
Basically what happened was Megan's indecisiveness ended up working in her benefit anyways, because she couldn't make a decision So she just kept having really, really, really painful contractions, and she ended up dilating more, which is nice. And finally,
which, by the way, I think they started getting really painful because the last time she had checked me, she like sweeped my membrane.
Yeah, she did.
And so, which we found out later, which is why I think things started speeding up and it started getting painful. And I was like, I'm only at a 7, and it sucks.
Yeah. So we finally made the decision. I convinced her to just have her water broken.
Well, because we came out of the bathroom, remember? And the other nurse came out because the nurse had switched, and the other one said, I go, I think I want an epidural. And she knew that I wanted to do it natural. She's like, sweetheart, like, are you sure? Like, the pity eye, like, I can't believe you're giving up right now. Like, I was like, really? Because people look at me like that when I tell them I want to do it natural. Like, are you sure? And then when you say you want an epidural, they're like, are you sure? Like, I don't know. It was just like this like weird thing going on in my head. And so she goes, all right, well, if we want the epidural, I need to start putting fluids in you, which will take about 15 minutes. And then I'll probably take another 15 minutes for the epidural person to get there. And I go, are you kidding me? Like, and I didn't want to be all puffy with the fluids, and I didn't want the time to pass and us not have done anything. And then so, yes, my indecisiveness worked in our favor because I think, yeah, what happened after that? I don't know.
Yeah, well,
it starts becoming more of a blur.
Yeah, I started telling her, I was like, well, look, you know, that's 30 solid minutes there. So we're going to wait 30 minutes. I was like, if you just had your water broken, yeah, it'll be pretty painful, but then, you know, it'll all be over. The baby will just pop out. And, you know, she thought at first maybe like she would have her water broken, and then, you know, the 24 hours passed, she would get
or
a
that
C-section,
they would just get really painful, because I remember with Blakely, once my water broke, it was unbearable.
Yeah.
And I was only at a 7, so I was like, if I get my water broken, I can't handle much more pain, let alone for a long period of time. So if I get my water broken and it's excruciating, and then I only, you know what I mean, like I don't progress as fast as we think, I will die. Like literally I'll die. Like, it was
but eventually we convinced her. We told her,
yeah,
baby's going to pop out if you just have the water broken.
So we had the doctor come back in.
We had the doctor come back in and break her water.
Which kind of felt good. It was like warm. But then right after I had another contraction, I thought that it would be more of like an all-in-one gush thing, but it kind of kept coming out every contraction. But so once that happened, that was probably at what, like 7.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because she was in so much pain before she had her water broken, and the contractions were so terrible, and she was, you know, visibly upset, visibly in pain. And then after she broke her water, the contractions got worse and more painful, but she handled it better. She like went into some fugue state or something. I always joke with her, like when I'm doing long races or something like triathlons, after a certain amount of like miles or whatever, you just kind of like go into this dream state. And I feel like she was in this dream state or something. Like
I was not. I was totally there, feeling everything.
Well, she was handling it better.
He said, you need to remember to breathe, because after a contraction, like you're so consciously breathing, trying to make sure that the baby, like nothing will alarm the doctor and make you have a C-section, that you're trying to make sure you're breathing during the contraction, that after I'm like getting lightheaded during the contraction, I'm breathing so deeply that after the contraction, Joe would say I would forget to breathe. He was like, you forget to breathe after a contraction. It's like, I'm like, oh, I'm dying. So, yeah. There was one point, though, I'll get to in a minute, that I do remember being in this like meditative state. The only point, because I did hypnobirthing, the only point in the whole experience that I felt like I was actually in a meditative state was while pushing. Or it was like, anyways, I'll get to that. So anyways, that was at 7. And then things progressed like really, really, really rapidly, because she was born at 7:49. So 49 minutes, like 50 minutes later, she was out. So there's like, he was right when my water broke, things would have, they progressed from a 7 to a 10. And I just feel like the doctor was not there, because it was a really busy night, and so she wasn't really like in the room at all, which when you feel like you should be at a 9 or a 10, you want the doctor to like confirm that. And I was like, I just feel like I'm in so much pain that no one was confirming anything. And then the nurses kept switching in and out. Oh, and then I had like a cheerleading corner. There were like 5 nurses in there. I don't know why everyone came in.
Yeah, so 7 o'clock at hospitals.
Like why is typically there?
It's like it's change of shift. So nurses change shift to 7 o'clock. So there's like double the amount of nurses there so they can give a report. And she was like about to, you know, push the baby out, so everybody like comes into the room to help. So we had like 6 nurses there.
And I was still, I mean, I was in a lot of pain, but I was still funny.
Yeah, and some of those nurses were fantastic.
Yeah, I literally, like, asked them if they were my cheerleading corner, and they all like died. And I was like, I don't know why I would say that.
Yeah, there was one nurse that came up to Megan, and I don't even know what she said to you, but Megan just literally like it's funny because I would like try to say things to her and comfort her, and even if I didn't say anything, her eyes are closed. If I touch her, she knows it's my hand, and she like smacks it. Okay, but this nurse comes over and she's like the most gentle, sweet voice, and she like says something to Megan real positive, and Megan just like starts crying and then just like grabs her hand.
I think I like petted her face or something.
Yeah, she like touched her face and then grabbed her hand. I was like, I don't get any of that, man.
Yeah, I don't know, because I felt like she understood like the whole like natural birthing. I didn't feel like I got that vibe from anyone else except for the first nurse that I loved and then her. Everyone else just kind of were just annoying. And so then I started feeling like I needed to push. And with Blakely, when I feel like I needed to push, I was at a 10. So at this point, I felt like with each contraction, I needed to push. And the doctor wasn't in the room to even confirm that I was even close to a 10. And so I was like, where's the doctor? Like, can we get this break? Like, oh, I just hated that. So she comes in. Where was I? Was that an 8? Or was that a 9? Like,
I think you might have been like an 8.5 or something. Megan was not happy.
This was so hard, guys.
But this was the water broke at around 7, and then obviously the contractions picked up very quickly, and this was probably like 7:20, between 7:20 and 7:30, and so yes, she was only at 8.5, but that happened in the span of like 15-20 minutes. So it kind of stuck that she wasn't at a 10, but we were like, look, like 15-20 minutes, you're already at 8.5. Give it another 10 minutes, maybe you'll be ready to push.
So then the doctor left again. That's why I was so mad. I was like, if only I had broken my water earlier. Anyway, so then the doctor leaves again and comes back only after the nurse was like, tell me, if you feel like you really have to push. And I was like, I've been feeling like I've had to push for the last 20 minutes. It's very frustrating. And so then the doctor comes back in after they're like, you need to push. I was at a 9.5, so I still couldn't technically push. But at least they were getting stuff going. Like they started actually like preparing for birth because they finally believed that I was somewhat there.
And she didn't leave the room, so that was good.
Yeah, finally at 9.5 centimeters, she didn't leave again. But then she just sat there like this.
Which Megan's super mad at, but it's because Megan was like hypnobirthing, and we had like her headphones on or the phone playing the hypnobirthing, and so she walked in the room. She was like, "All right, this girl's gonna do it all on her own," and so she didn't like want to interfere. I don't think Megan realized that.
No, I just thought she was being annoying.
Yeah.
And just sitting there like, I'm not gonna do anything, and I'm not gonna tell you when you're at 10. Like you're just gonna have to figure it out. And so they said not to push, and I felt like I was pushing basically from 9 centimeters. Trying really hard not to. But then I got into this meditative state. I remember putting my hand on my heart, and then just like, this was the only time. Do you remember? I was like, put my hand on my heart, and then I just was breathing so slowly. There was only like it was only in between one contraction that this happened, and it was the only time that I felt like I had a break for 12 hours. And then I had another contraction, and it was over. No, but I remember the nurse, the one that I liked, that came in, that was really sweet. That was like, I touched her face. In the middle of a really intense contraction, she started telling me that I needed to relax my eyebrows, stop tensioning your shoulders, stop doing all these things. And I can't control that in that moment. Like I could
well, you did.
Did I? Yeah. Oh, I didn't feel like I was able to. But then right after the contraction, she laughed. She goes, you know how I know you're strong? Because you didn't punch me when I was saying that. Or something like that. So anyways, then it was finally time. Joe said that you're going to have to tell more of this story because I'm like in this state right now with... But you said that she maybe had moved the, because I started pushing maybe at 9.5 or something, and the doctor might have like...
Yeah, so she checked her again. She was probably around a 10, maybe a little bit more, and then she may have just like, it may have been like a little bit of cervix left over, but she like just pushed it aside. But then the last time the doctor checked, she was maybe just under 10 centimeters, maybe 10 centimeters. But I think the doctor may have like just pushed a little cervix aside or something.
Because I was trying to push before I was at a 10. Yeah. I don't know why I felt like I had to push at like a 9, and she said that whatever.
Yeah. So Megan was like hypnobirthing, so we had like this music playing. So the funny thing was that the doctor was like, "Okay, you're at a 10," and didn't say anything else.
And I literally looked at her and I go, "So what are we waiting for?"
And then the doctor's like, you can push.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was so mean.
Yeah.
When you're that much pain, I'm a little bit of a...
Yeah, she's a little sass queen.
So what are we waiting for?
But so is our daughter. She gets like,
oh, whatever.
alrighty, so then Megan started pushing.
And the nurse said, just let it out. She kind of gave me permission to kind of make noise, which is funny because with Blakely, I was like pretty silent, and I felt like if I were to make noise, it would have taken more energy. But this time around, I was just like in so much pain, and when she gave me permission to just like let it out, like...
Oh, she let it out.
I was definitely making I sounded like an animal.
She screamed.
And as soon as I was like pushing, and then I was pushing in a weird position, and then Joseph and the nurse was like, I feel like you need to be in a better position. So they had, and I really didn't want to move, but I did. And they like moved my legs closer to my chest, and then it made it so much easier. And I think probably in like 2 or 3 pushes, Arlowe's head was out.
Her head came out in like a push.
Really?
And then...
Well, that's when I screamed. I literally screamed. I'm sure people like in the hallway were like, what is happening in there? I mean, everyone knows what's happening, but I just think it's so funny that I screamed. That's like so out of character of me. But yeah, soon I like screamed, her head popped out. And then they were like, hey, we gotta get her shoulders out. And with Blakely, like, she told me to push really softly. And with Arlowe, I felt like I had to push like really hard, and to find out Arlowe was a little bit bigger than Blakely, and that was actually what they first said when she came out. They were like, whoa, she is a big baby. Yeah. And then she was out, and then they like put her on my chest, and after she started crying, and after I just kind of like came back to reality, I checked to make sure she was a girl because Joseph and I were so convinced that she was going to come out a boy. It was so funny because we just thought it was
we were convinced.
We were convinced, but I was like, we never saw the ultrasound that she was a girl. Like, we didn't see proof that it was a girl. And so
I was a girl my mom's whole pregnancy throughout like multiple ultrasounds, and here I am, not a girl.
Not a girl. So yeah, I definitely checked that, and she's a girl. So and then the placenta came out, and they mentioned how large it was. It like took up like the entire basin. Is that the right word? And I guess they like had to immediately like put so much pressure on my stomach because I was bleeding a lot, I guess. Oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. And I literally, as an instinct, the doctor like pushed really hard, which hurt so bad. And I like instinctively just grabbed her hand. And she was like, so try not to touch my hand because this is a sanitized hand, or a sterile hand. And I was like, oh. But it was like, it hurt so bad. But I guess I had to do that to make sure I didn't just like bleed out. But then, yeah. Is that it? Yeah. The funny thing is Arlowe is an angel baby, and her delivery was pretty rough, but afterwards she's just been perfect. She's been easygoing. She's just been, it's just been awesome. So I'll take it.
And we can say this because we're now like 10 days out. We made the first video, it was closer.
Yeah.
But now we're way out. And one of the coolest things about the birth was, obviously she faked us out a couple of times, was going to come early. Her due date was July 3rd, but it just so happened that she came on June 28th, 2018, which is 10 years to the day from the day that I was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I think it was a wonderful little tender mercy, tender blessing that Heavenly Father just proved to me that my life has changed so dramatically, and that He's blessed me with another beautiful daughter, another wonderful, beautiful family, and so I'll definitely remember that day for the rest of my life, both days.
Well, this was our story, and we just wanted to document it for all of you that were curious, but also for Arlo so that she can watch it when she gets older, and I will always remember